You taught me to tie knots, then used those same hands to forge my signature. Maritime engineer's story. Initial post. I never thought I'd be writing this, but I need to get this out before I lose my mind. I'm Marcus, 26M, a maritime engineer specializing in commercial vessel design. I've worked my ass off since I was 16, putting myself through university while working nights at a shipyard. My father, 58M, works in a warehouse, and my younger brother Jake, 24M, is a professional dog walker who's always chasing the next big business idea. Growing up, I was invisible. Jake was the golden child, charismatic, funny, the one who could make Dad laugh. I was the quiet one, always tinkering with models, reading technical manuals, dreaming of designing ships that could weather any storm. The irony isn't lost on me now that I couldn't see the storm brewing in my own family. 3 weeks ago, I received a call from my mortgage company about a missed payment on a loan I never took out. My blood ran cold. After hours on the phone, I discovered someone had taken out a $175,000 home equity loan against my waterfront condo, the one I'd saved for since I was 18, the one I'd finally purchased last year after landing my dream job at Meridian Marine Design. The signature on the documents was mine, but I never signed them. The notary's seal was legitimate. The power of attorney document authorizing the transaction? I'd never seen it before in my life. I hired a lawyer immediately. What we uncovered shattered what was left of my relationship with my family. My father had forged a power of attorney document 6 months ago, using his position at the warehouse to access industrial printing equipment after hours. He'd studied my signature from birthday cards I'd sent him, cards I'd hoped might bridge the gap between us. The money, every cent, went to fund Jake's latest venture, a luxury pet spa that never got past the planning phase. Jake had convinced Dad that this was the one, the business that would finally make him successful. They needed capital, and apparently, I was nothing more than their personal ATM. When I confronted my father, do you know what he said? "You've always been selfish with your success, Marcus. Your brother needed this chance, and you have plenty. Family helps family. Family helps family." Those words echo in my head at night. Where was family when I was eating ramen for months to afford textbooks? Where was family when I graduated summa cum laude and no one came to the ceremony? Where was family when I was working 100-hour weeks to prove myself worthy of promotion? I was valuable only when I had something to take. The lawyer says we have a strong case for fraud and identity theft. The forensic document examiner confirmed the signatures were forged. The notary is being investigated for negligence or potential involvement. But none of that changes the fact that my own father saw me as nothing more than a resource to be exploited. My coworkers keep asking why I look exhausted. How do I explain that the man who taught me to tie sailing knots when I was 5 just tried to sink my entire future? How do I tell them that every blueprint I review reminds me of the careful planning that went into betraying me? I've moved to a hotel while the investigation continues. The condo feels tainted now, like every room holds the ghost of their deception. Jake has been calling non-stop, alternating between "it was Dad's idea" and "you're destroying the family." As if I'm the one who picked up the sledgehammer. Tomorrow, I meet with federal investigators. Apparently, there might be more to this than just family fraud. The detective mentioned something about patterns, other victims, organized fraud. I just wanted my family to love me for who I am, not what I could provide. Now I'm learning they might have been capable of even worse than I imagined. I designed ships meant to withstand Category 5 hurricanes, but I never designed anything to protect myself from the people who were supposed to be my safe harbor. Update 1, 2 weeks later. I need to update you all because what happened since my last post has been absolutely insane. Remember how I mentioned federal investigators were getting involved? It turns out my father's betrayal was just the tip of a massive iceberg. The FBI showed up at my hotel at 7 a.m. last Tuesday with a warrant for my electronics and a lot of questions. At first, I panicked, thinking they suspected me of something. But Agent Rodriguez explained they'd been investigating a maritime insurance fraud ring for 18 months, and my father's name had just surfaced in their investigation. Here's where it gets surreal. My father wasn't just a warehouse worker. He was a warehouse manager at Coastal Shipping Logistics, with access to shipping manifests, vessel documentation, and insurance paperwork. For the past 3 years, he'd been feeding information to a fraud ring that would create fake damage claims on cargo shipments, file inflated insurance claims, and sometimes even orchestrate actual cargo losses that were really just redirected shipments. The forged power of attorney he used on my condo? The FBI found 17 similar documents in an encrypted folder on his work computer. I wasn't his first victim, just his most personal one. The other victims included 2 elderly neighbors, a cousin in Florida, and 3 of his co-workers who trusted him with their financial information. Agent Rodriguez showed me surveillance footage from the warehouse. There was my father, after hours, using the high-end printers to create documents. There he was again, meeting with two men in the parking lot, exchanging folders for cash. The man who lectured me about hard work and honesty was running a side business in forgery and fraud. But here's the part that made me physically sick. He'd been using my professional reputation as cover. When the ring needed someone to verify technical details about ship specifications for their fraudulent claims, my father would casually mention his son, the maritime engineer. He'd steal technical documents from my home office during visits, photograph my professional certificates, even recorded conversations where I discussed ship vulnerabilities and maintenance issues. He was using my expertise to make their fraud more believable. Jake knew. That's the other revelation. My brother wasn't just a recipient of stolen funds, he was an active participant. The FBI found text messages between him and Dad planning which properties to target, discussing how to approach potential victims, celebrating their scores. The luxury pet spa? It was supposed to be a money laundering front. Jake's girlfriend, who I always thought was too smart for him, came forward as a whistleblower. She'd discovered what they were doing and had been secretly recording conversations for months, terrified but unsure who to trust. She's the reason the FBI connected my case to the larger investigation. The investigation has revealed approximately $3.2 million in fraudulent insurance claims over 3 years. My father was paid $400,000 for his role. Jake received $65,000 in cash payments, plus the $175,000 stolen from me. They were small players in the bigger scheme, but they were enthusiastic participants. My employer, Meridian Marine Design, has been incredibly supportive. When they learned someone had been using my credentials and expertise for fraud, they immediately hired a security firm to protect our intellectual property and offered me paid leave to deal with the legal situation. My direct supervisor, Captain Torres, a former Navy officer who'd become my mentor, told me, "Marcus, in my 40 years at sea, I've learned that storms reveal character. Your family showed theirs, and you're showing yours. We stand by our people." The forensic accountant tracking the money found something interesting. 3 days before taking the loan against my condo, my father had received a payment demand from the fraud ring's leaders. They wanted their cut from a job that had gone wrong, and he was $200,000 short. So he turned to the one source of money he thought he could access without immediate consequences: me. I've been working with the FBI, providing every document, every family photo that might show gatherings with other suspects, every memory of strange visitors or unexplained absences. It feels like I'm excavating my entire childhood, looking for signs I missed. Were those fishing trips really meetings? Were those warehouse overtime shifts actually planning sessions? My therapist, yes, I finally got one, says I'm processing compound trauma, not just the betrayal, but the revelation that my entire understanding of my family was built on lies. The father I thought was a hardworking, simple man was a criminal. The brother I thought was just irresponsible was actively malicious. The neglect I experienced wasn't just favoritism, it was them seeing me as a mark from the very beginning. Update 2, 6 weeks later. The arrests happened at dawn on a Thursday. I watched from my lawyer's office window as federal agents led my father out of his house in handcuffs. Jake was arrested at the dog park, surrounded by the pets he was supposed to be walking. Local news was there. Someone had tipped them off. The headline that evening: local family involved in multi-million-dollar maritime fraud scheme. The full scope of the investigation has now been revealed, and it's staggering. 37 individuals across 4 states have been charged. The ring had connections to international shipping companies, corrupt insurance adjusters, and even some Port Authority officials. My father and Jake were charged with wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy to commit fraud, money laundering, and under RICO statutes, racketeering. During the bond hearing, I saw my father for the first time since confronting him about the forged documents. He'd aged years in weeks. When our eyes met across the courtroom, he had the audacity to mouth, "I'm sorry." Jake didn't even look at me. He spent the entire hearing staring at his hands, occasionally wiping tears. Neither made bail. The judge considered them flight risks given the international connections of the fraud ring and the fact that my father had created dozens of fake identities with supporting documentation. Jake's passport had stamps from countries I never knew he'd visited. Turns out those meditation retreats were money runs to offshore accounts. The restitution hearing was surreal. The federal prosecutor laid out every transaction, every victim, every dollar stolen. When they got to my case, they revealed something that broke me. My father had started planning to steal from me the day I got my job at Meridian. He'd saved the announcement email I'd sent him, the one where I'd excitedly shared my starting salary and signing bonus. In the margins of the printed email, found in his desk, he'd written, "Finally useful." The prosecutor also revealed that Jake had actively researched my routine, my relationships, my habits. He'd created a detailed profile of me to better understand how to exploit my resources without raising suspicion. There were notes about my tendency to avoid confrontation, my desire for family connection, my work schedule. They'd weaponized my psychology against me. But here's where justice started to show its teeth. The asset forfeiture began. Every single thing my father and Jake had purchased with illegal funds was seized. Dad's truck, Jake's Mercedes, of course he had one, their electronics, jewelry, even the $4,000 mountain bike Jake bought last month. The FBI found $287,000 in cryptocurrency that Jake thought he'd hidden. They discovered 3 storage units full of goods purchased with stolen funds. My father's house, the one I grew up in, is being sold. Turns out he'd refinanced it 3 times to fund Jake's schemes and pay gambling debts. Oh yes, gambling. Another revelation. My straight-laced, lecture-giving father had a serious online poker addiction. Jake had one too, though his poison was sports betting. They were drowning in debt to some very dangerous people, which explained the desperation behind targeting me. The civil suits have started rolling in. Every victim is suing for damages beyond just restitution. The elderly couple my father defrauded? Their children are seeking punitive damages that could exceed $1 million. The insurance companies are pursuing civil RICO claims that triple the damages. My father and Jake will be bankrupt for life, regardless of the criminal outcomes. I've had to testify twice so far. Each time, Jake's lawyer has tried to paint me as the vindictive son, jealous of his younger brother, exaggerating the family dynamics. Each time, the evidence has shut them down. The forensic psychiatrist who evaluated the family dynamics for the court stated that I showed remarkable resilience in the face of systematic emotional and financial exploitation by family members who viewed him solely as a resource. Work has become my sanctuary. Captain Torres assigned me to lead a new project designing Arctic research vessels, saying I needed something forward-focused. The team has been incredible, never bringing up the news articles, just treating me as Marcus the engineer, not Marcus the victim. Although one colleague did quietly leave a book on my desk about recovering from family betrayal with a note, my father was a con artist too. It gets better. The hardest part. My mother called. My parents divorced when I was 12, and she moved across the country. We barely speak. But she called, crying, apologizing for not protecting me from him, for not fighting for custody, for choosing her own peace over her children's well-being. She admitted she knew what he was capable of. He'd forged her signature during their marriage multiple times, but she'd convinced herself he'd never hurt his own children. She's flying in for the trial. Update 3 months later. The trial ended yesterday. I need to document this while it's still fresh, though I'm not sure fresh is the right word for something that feels like it's been carved into my bones. My father was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Jake got 4 years. The judge, a stern woman who'd spent her career in financial crimes, called their actions a breathtaking violation of familial trust coupled with systematic criminal enterprise. She specifically addressed my father, saying, "You didn't just steal money. You stole your son's faith in family, his sense of security, his trust in the very foundation of human relationships. You weaponized parental bonds for profit." During victim impact statements, I stood up and spoke. I'd prepared a statement with my therapist, but when I got to the podium, I threw it away and spoke from the heart. I spent my childhood believing I wasn't good enough to earn your love. I excelled in school, hoping for your pride. I chose maritime engineering because you loved the ocean. I sent cards, called, visited, all hoping that someday I'd matter to you as more than an afterthought. Now I know the truth. I did matter to you, just not in the way a son should matter to his father. I mattered as a resource, a mark, a target. You taught me to tie knots, and then you used those same hands to forge my signature. You taught me about honor, while planning to destroy mine. I don't forgive you. Maybe someday I will, but today, I simply want you to know that despite your best efforts, you didn't break me. I'm still standing. I'm still building. I'm still the son you never deserved. Jake tried to speak during his statement but broke down completely. For the first time since this began, he looked directly at me and said, "Marcus, I killed the only real thing in my life, my brother. Dad made me believe you owed us, that your success was our failure, that taking from you was balancing the scales. I was weak, stupid, and cruel. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know that I see it now, all of it. The lies, the manipulation, the sickness of what we did. I'm sorry." The restitution was finalized, $490,000 to me, comprising the stolen $175,000, damages, and compensation for the use of my professional reputation in their crimes. It will come from the seized assets and any future earnings they have. The elderly couple received $800,000. Other victims received amounts ranging from $50,000 to $300,000. The insurance companies were awarded $3.8 million in damages. But here's the unexpected development. My career has skyrocketed. The Arctic research vessel project I led was nominated for an Innovation Award. Meridian promoted me to Senior Design Engineer, the youngest in the company's history. Captain Torres, in his recommendation, wrote that I'd shown exceptional grace under pressure and an ability to maintain professional excellence despite personal catastrophe. The maritime industry is small, and somehow, my story became one of resilience rather than scandal. I bought a new condo, in a different city, with better security and no memories. I've started dating someone, a marine biologist named Sarah who knows my story and doesn't treat me like broken glass. She says she admires how I've handled everything, but more importantly, she makes me laugh about things that have nothing to do with any of this. My mother and I have started rebuilding our relationship. She's been going to therapy too, dealing with her guilt over leaving me with him. She told me something that reframed my entire childhood. When you were 8, you built a model ship in a bottle. Your father was furious, not proud, furious. He said you were showing off, making him look stupid. That's when I knew he'd never celebrate your success, only resent it. I should have taken you with me. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough then. The fraud ring's other members are being tried separately. 12 have already pled guilty. The investigation has led to reforms in maritime insurance verification procedures. Ironically, my unwitting involvement has made me something of an expert on maritime fraud prevention. I've been asked to consult on new security protocols, turning this nightmare into professional opportunity. Final update, 6 months later. This will be my last update on this matter. I need to close this chapter and move forward, but something happened last week that feels like the right ending to document. Jake was released to a halfway house after serving 18 months, with good behavior and time served. The first thing he did was send me a letter. Not an email, not a text, but a handwritten letter. He'd completed addiction counseling, therapy, and a vocational program in prison. But more importantly, he'd done something unexpected. He'd written a detailed account of every person involved in the fraud ring, providing evidence that helped prosecutors secure 3 more convictions. He didn't do it for a reduced sentence. He'd already been sentenced. He did it because, in his words, it was the first honest thing I could do. In the letter, he wrote, "Marcus, prison therapy made me understand something. Dad didn't just steal from you, he stole from both of us. You lost money and trust. I lost my moral compass and my brother. He pitted us against each other from childhood, made me believe your success diminished me, made you believe you had to earn love through achievement. We were both victims of his manipulation, just in different ways. You survived by excelling despite him. I survived by becoming him. I'm not asking for forgiveness or a relationship. I'm just asking you to know that I finally see the truth. You were never my enemy. You were the brother I should have protected and celebrated. I'm in therapy now, real therapy, not the court-mandated kind. I'm learning to be a person who doesn't take from others to feel whole. I got a job at an animal shelter, minimum wage, honest work. It's the first money I've earned that doesn't make me feel sick. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. If you don't, I understand. You deserved a real brother. I'm sorry I couldn't be that for you. I haven't responded yet. I don't know if I will. But something in me shifted reading it, not forgiveness exactly, but maybe the beginning of understanding. My father remains in federal prison. He's tried to contact me 17 times. I've refused every attempt. He'll be 66 when he gets out, with no assets, no home, and no family waiting for him. Sometimes I wonder if he regrets what he did or just regrets getting caught. I've decided it doesn't matter. Meridian has made me the lead designer for their new sustainable shipping initiative. I'm designing vessels that will reduce oceanic pollution by 40%. It feels like building something clean after swimming through so much toxicity. Sarah and I are moving in together next month. She jokes that she fell for me because I'm unsinkable, but really, we both know I nearly drowned. I just chose to keep swimming. The money from the restitution let me establish a scholarship fund for first-generation college students pursuing maritime careers. It's small, but it helps kids who, like me, are trying to build something without family support. Captain Torres helps me review applications. We look for resilience, not just grades. I've learned something through all of this. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when the waters get rough. My family is Captain Torres, who stood by me. It's Sarah, who sees my scars and chooses to stay. It's my therapy group, who understand betrayal and recovery. It's my team at Meridian, who judged me by my work, not my father's crimes. Last month, I designed a revolutionary ballast system that could prevent capsizing in extreme weather. The patent application credits me as the sole inventor. For the first time in my life, my name stands alone on an achievement, untainted by my father's shadow, undiminished by Jake's needs. It's just me, Marcus, maritime engineer, survivor, builder of better things. The water metaphors feel heavy-handed as I write this, but they're what I know. Ships are designed to flex in storms, rigid structures break, but those that bend survive. I've learned to flex, to bend, to let the waves pass through rather than resist them. My father tried to sink me with the weight of his crimes. Jake tried to drag me down with guilt. But I'm still floating, still sailing, still charting my own course. To anyone reading this who's dealing with family betrayal, you're not responsible for their choices. You're not obligated to forgive. You're not broken because they broke your trust. You're allowed to build a new life from the wreckage they created. You're allowed to sail away and never look back. The ocean doesn't apologize for its storms. Neither do I apologize for surviving mine. Thank you to everyone who's followed this story, offered support, and shared their own experiences. Your messages kept me afloat when I felt like I was drowning. Fair winds and following seas to all of you.